Welcome to the deep dive. Imagine, imagine for a second that you are an archaeologist
Okay, I'm with you.
and you're brushing the dust off this ancient Sumerian clay tablet. You're expecting, I don't know, an emotional epic poem, but instead you find this clinical, totally dry
Right,
list.
like 3 bushels of wheat, 10 goats, 2 bronze swords, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And on the surface, it's just inventory. But if you know how to read between the lines, that simple ledger actually reveals an entire civilization's economy.
Oh yeah, their societal priorities and, inevitably the brutal mechanics of their wars.
Yes. And today, we are bringing you into a modern, highly surreal equivalent of one of those tablets.
Because it's a document that really demands that kind of forensic attention. We're looking at a highly specific excerpt from a document titled The Country Balls Chronicles, Global War and Conquest, specifically Part 7.
Right.
And what it does is it strips away all the diplomacy, the political posturing, the human element.
Gold data.
Exactly. It leaves us with nothing but the cold, hard data of conflict in this totally unique universe. We just get the combatants, the really unusual locations, the specific arsenals, and the victors.
Okay, let's unpack this because to the untrained eye, this just reads like a rapid-fire cosmic scorecard, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
The Country Balls universe is this place where nations are ostensibly these spherical avatars, and geopolitical friction is just resolved through immediate, highly regimented combat.
There's absolutely no debate. It's just straight to the battlefield.
Straight to the battlefield. But for you listening, whether you're prepping for a strategy meeting or you're just fascinated by how systems of power operate, this text is a masterclass in underlying logic.
It really is.
We aren't just walking through a list of fictional battles today. We are going to map the actual physics of this universe, like how technology scales, how alliances literally manipulate reality, and
And what happens when an unstoppable force finally hits a wall?
exactly. So let's dive into that first theme, the sheer power of technological asymmetry.
Right, because the text establishes a baseline first. It details a conflict between North Guinea and South Guinea in a location called Monson.
And North Guinea secures the victory using this massive combined arms approach. The ledger lists their arsenal, right? Guns, bazookas, tanks, airplanes, bombs.
It's a very heavy, pluralized inventory. It implies mass production.
Yeah, established supply chains and all that. But then the author inserts this one highly specific detail. It says, quote, a helicopter is involved. Just one.
Which is wild. That singularity is the key to understanding the whole engagement.
Right.
When you contrast a helicopter with fleets of airplanes and battalions of tanks, it implies that rotary wing aviation is, brand new.
Hmm.
Or maybe prohibitively expensive or highly experimental at this stage.
It's like a tech tree in a strategy video game.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy.
When you first spend the resources to unlock a new tier of technology, you don't instantly get an armada of them.
No, you have one prototype.
Exactly. You have the one unit that you've managed to scrape together enough capital to deploy, so that one helicopter suggests a massive gamble by North Guinea.
What's fascinating here is the psychological mechanism at play. Because in historical military doctrine, when you introduce a paradigm-shifting technology—
Like the first tanks in World War I.
Exactly, at the Somme, the psychological impact vastly outstrips the actual, destructive capability on that specific day.
That makes total sense.
That lone helicopter in Monson probably didn't win the war through firepower alone. It broke South Guinea's tactical paradigm. They had simply never seen anything like it.
Their defensive models just collapsed under the shock of the new, which, by the way, for anyone listening who works in a volatile industry, that's the essence of market disruption. You don't need 1,000 new products to paralyze a competitor. You just need one that operates on an axis they can't comprehend.
Beautifully put. And that concept of operating on an incomprehensible axis brings us perfectly to the next anomaly in the text.
Oh, where the rules of projecting power seem to violently contradict themselves?
Yes. The ledger moves to a conflict where Spain and Portugal form a coalition to fight Ecuador, Mexico, and Colombia. And they do this all the way in Bogota.
Which is an incredibly ambitious transatlantic projection of power. Like, think of the supply lines.
A logistical nightmare. But here's the catch. The text explicitly dictates that the combatants, quote, use guns and bazookas,
That's the whole inventory.
those basic infantry weapons. And Spain and Portugal emerge victorious.
But then the very next line of the Chronicle concludes with this staggering statement. They bomb many buildings in Bogota. Wait, I have to push back on this text here.
Go for it.
If the ledger strictly limits their arsenal to guns and bazookas, the mechanics of bombing buildings are physically impossible.
I mean, it is a glaring contradiction if we apply real-world physics to it.
It totally makes me think of those over-the-top action movies from the 1980s.
Oh, like where the hero's running through the jungle?
Yes. The hero is holding a standard issue assault rifle, but in the background there are these massive city-leveling explosions going off that would clearly require heavy artillery.
Right, the props in the hero's hands just do not match the scale of destruction happening on screen.
Exactly. So it begs the question, are we dealing with an unreliable narrator here? Or is the camera of this ledger just incredibly zoomed in?
Well, the action movie framing is great, but let's push that even further. Let's look at how alliances function as literal force multipliers in this universe.
Okay.
Think of it like a chemical catalyst. In chemistry, you take two stable compounds, introduce a specific catalyst, and the reaction is just wildly disproportionate.
So in the Country Balls universe, when Spain and Portugal merge into a coalition, that synergy actually alters their ground forces capabilities.
Yeah, perhaps a bazooka in the hands of a unified Iberian coalition ceases to function as a normal anti-tank weapon. The surreal logic might dictate that the combined diplomatic weight actually grants basic infantry weapons the destructive yield of an aerial bombardment.
Wow. So willpower makes standard weapons hit way above their weight class.
Or, if you want more grounded interpretation, the ledger might operate on a strict vanguard principle,
Meaning what, exactly?
meaning it only records the weapons physically carried by the soldiers breaching the city limits of Bogotá. It deliberately omits the off-screen artillery batteries 50 miles away that actually did the bombing.
Oh, so the author only cares about the personal, face-to-face friction of the infantry. Ground combat is personal, and the bombing is just environmental.
Exactly.
I love how that shifts our understanding of what this civilization values. But that grounded, localized nature of conflict, that gets entirely shattered as we move into the geographic realities, because the map of this world completely breaks my brain.
Yeah, the geography is arguably the most aggressive weapon deployed in the entire chronicle.
So let's set the baseline. The ledger details a war between Russia and Mongolia taking place in Chita.
Which is a real, tangible city in Siberia.
Right, close to the Mongolian border, and the arsenal returns to that heavy, pluralized approach. Guns, bazookas, airplanes, bombs, tanks. Russia wins.
It's a classic, brutal land war in Asia. It relies on brute force physics and overwhelming armor on a shared border.
It lulls you into a false sense of security, right? It makes you think the map of the Country Balls universe mirrors our own.
It anchors you in geopolitical realism just long enough to make the next part deeply unsettling.
Because here's where it gets really interesting. The very next entry forces Germany into a conflict with Somalia.
Already a massive logistical leap.
Huge! But the location forces you to reread the line 3 times. The text explicitly documents the location of this war as, quote, Ohio, Somalia.
This raises an important question.
Yeah.
Because Ohio, Somalia completely severs the narrative from any traditional geographic reality.
Like, what kind of map allows for that? Are we dealing with an alternate timeline where the American Midwest was physically teleported to the Horn of Africa?
Or is it a bizarre colonial naming convention?
Right, where they conquer a patch of desert and just inexplicably name it Ohio. It reminds me of a child playing with toys on a living room rug. The couch is a mountain, the coffee table is the ocean, and they're fighting in Ohio, Somalia, just because the child's imagination dictated that those two concepts occupy the same physical space now.
Well, taking that rug analogy further, imagine the child suddenly spills a glass of water across the rug.
Oh, the environment demands a whole new tactical approach.
Exactly. And that perfectly explains the arsenal for this battle. Germany uses guns, bazookas, tanks, plural helicopters, and boats. They use boats to win in Ohio, Somalia.
Which is terrifying from a logistical standpoint.
Precisely. If Ohio is a landlocked state in our reality, but a region of Somalia in this reality, the introduction of naval assets implies the geography isn't just renamed. It is fundamentally physically altered to suit the combatants.
So an amphibious invasion of Ohio is a viable tactical maneuver there.
Yes. And for anyone studying strategy, this is a vital lesson in environmental manipulation. The most dangerous opponents don't just bring superior firepower, they rewrite the geography of the market so your defenses are completely irrelevant.
Germany brought an ocean to Ohio to win.
That's unbelievable. Whoever controls the physics of the map controls the outcome. Which sets a brilliant stage for the climax of the excerpt. We've tracked this evolution. North Guinea used novel tech. Spain and Portugal weaponized alliance synergy. Russia used brute force. Germany mastered reality-bending amphibious operations.
So the Ledger has spent 4 wars proving a simple thesis. If you bring the right weapons or apply overwhelming force, violence works. Someone always wins. Until we get to Padang.
The Malaysia versus Indonesia War.
Taking place in Padang, which is a real city on the western coast of Sumatra, we are violently snapped back to a geographically accurate, deeply localized conflict between two neighbors.
But the arsenal listed stops you in your tracks.
It really does. Guns, bazookas, tanks, airplanes, boats, and helicopters.
The absolute maximum deployment of forces mentioned anywhere in the text.
It's the culmination of the entire tech tree. They emptied the armory, naval fleets, squadrons of airplanes, heavy armor, infantry. So what does this all mean for the outcome?
You would expect the most spectacular victory yet.
But the text abruptly concludes with one sentence. No one won the war in Padang.
It completely subverts the mathematical logic of the ledger. Before this, greater input of kinetic force equaled a victory output. Padang reveals the terminal limit of that equation.
It's the classic unstoppable force meeting the immovable object. They threw literally every conceivable weapon at each other in perfect symmetry, and it resulted in total grinding gridlock.
It's like World War I trench warfare.
Exactly. You can have tanks and aircraft, but if both sides are perfectly matched in industrial output, you just spend months churning the earth into mud, and the borders never shift.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of conflict theory, this is the textbook definition of mutually assured exhaustion. In a zero-sum game with symmetrical, unlimited resources, the utility of violence drops to zero.
Wow.
And what's haunting are the silences. The ledger refuses to elaborate on how it ended in a tie.
Yeah.
Did supply chains collapse? Was Padang just wiped off the map entirely, leaving nothing to claim?
It's a really sobering reality check. We've traced an incredible strategic arc today. From the prototype helicopter in Monson to the physics-defying alliance in Bogota, from Russian brute force to the warped geography of Ohio, Somalia, and finally, the inescapable stalemate of Padang.
I want to leave you with a final thought, though. If deploying every single weapon in the Padang conflict resulted in a definitive tie, what would it actually take to tip the scales in the next chapter?
Right, because kinetic warfare is maxed out.
Exactly. If victory is no longer about having the biggest arsenal, maybe the next evolution won't feature traditional weapons at all. We might be looking at the dawn of economic sabotage, cultural warfare, or cyber infiltration.
Moving from physical destruction to systemic control, that is a phenomenal transition to watch out for, because whether you're deciphering Sumerian clay tablets, navigating corporate competition, or analyzing the surreal ledgers of the country balls, the moment the old tools stop working is the exact moment a new paradigm is born.
Very true.
Keep an eye out for those shifts in your own world, and we will see you next time on The Deep Dive.